It started with the carpet breathing. My childhood bedroom had always had that cheap, beige, nailed-down pile that snags socks and holds secrets. But that night it inhaled lemon and dust and exhaled warm plastic. The smell of my old CRT that hasn't worked since middle school. I stood in the doorway, holding a banker's box, and listened to the breath under the hum. Our house has its noises. The refrigerator's old man cough, the water heater's throat clear, but this sound came from somewhere that wasn't on the blueprint. I'd come back to box up the last of the things Mom couldn't let herself touch. She's in rehab across town after the fall, and my sister said, "Do the room, please, because I can't." I told myself it would be an evening of folding shirts that still knew my shoulders and tossing trophies that never meant anything. At 12:47 a.m., the hall clock muttered some kind of consent, and the room put on a different face. The closet seam was lit from within by a color I remember from school cafeterias and DMV waiting rooms. Sick, soft yellow. The hum stood up behind the door and pressed its forehead to the wood. I set the box down without realizing I'd set the box down. My fingers went to the closet knob and froze a breath away because a thought I didn't make spoke up in my chest. Check the doorframe. Lower left. For years there had been a penciled hash mark down there tracking my height until I stopped growing. Next to it now, under the paint, a square of scotch tape bubbled like something too warm under skin. I peeled it up with my nail and found a folded post-it, brown around the edges, my handwriting from 4th grade. "Don't step past the second line after midnight," it said. "If the lights hum like bees, don't look up. If you hear your name from the vent, it's not me." It was the kind of secret rule list kids make for no reason except to keep the world from breaking. I didn't remember writing it, but my block letters were plain as truth. The hum in the closet shifted from note to wordless whisper, like someone rubbing corduroy. The knob was warm. I cracked the door. Cold rinsed my face. The closet I grew in should have been 2 feet deep, bad paint, hangers. Instead, it went on past any kind of sense, the same yellow wall and stained carpet repeating into a perspective line my eyes tried not to follow. Fluorescent light glared from high ceilings you can't ever find if you try to see them. The smell was wet coins and spilled toner. Somewhere far down the hall that wasn't. A shoe squeaked. Then another. Footsteps came forward at an office walk pace, unhurried, like bad news with a coffee in its hand. A man rounded the jut of a wall. He wore a lanyard that said wayfinding in letters you can tell mean something to a committee. His face was the particular tired reserved for people who've memorized an unfair map. "Sorry about the reroute," he said, not looking surprised to see me in pajama pants holding a banker's box. He lifted a hand in apology as if it weighed a little. "Maintenance red tag corridor delta, so they're pushing traffic through anchors. Your closet pinged as stable. We'll be gone by 2. "Ma, what did what?" "Anchor," he said gently, like it hurt to explain. "Places with memory hold shape better. Kids make dens. Closets learn to be doors. You're scored high on familiarity indices. Smells right. Floor knows your weight. Congratulations, I guess." Behind him, 3 people in mismatched office clothes strode by with duct tape loops around their wrists and a map printed on a grocery bag. None of them broke stride. None of them let their shoulders graze my door. One woman glanced at the jam as if it were a person she couldn't afford to make eye contact with. "Door stays open," the wayfinder said. "Width of shopping cart. Do not swing it narrower if anyone's stepping. Sheer casualties make paperwork." "Like the paperwork?" He grimaced. "It was a joke once." He fished in a pocket and produced a laminated tag. He clipped it to my baseboard with an office binder clip carried like a rosary. "Temporary bypass. Do not disturb." "Hold on," I said, because my room was full of my old air and his corridor tasted like nowhere. "You can't. This is my house." "Tonight it's a hallway," he said, not unkind. "Tomorrow it'll remember itself, if you let it. Don't bleach the baseboards. Don't repaint. Don't close the door if the light flickers. And if the janitor comes through, don't look at its hands." Janitor, as if I'd placed an order, the fluorescence ticked a notch darker, and a wet rubber squeal echoed from the yellow forever. A thing rounded the corner, pushing a mop bucket that wasn't a mop bucket, translucent and heavy with something thicker than water. It wore a vest the color of caution and a smile drawn in tape. Its hands were the parts of gloves you throw away. It didn't look up. The bucket sloshed. The smell of wet carpet went straight into the part of my head that remembers fever. Breathe through your mouth, the wayfinder said softly. Don't say anything that sounds like your name. I thought of my name anyway, which is a habit names have. The janitor didn't stop. It slid by, and where it slid, the already stained carpet darkened. A blue wax crayon's half moon appeared on the inside edge of my door jamb, a casual possession note. They tag anchors, the wayfinder murmured. Blue means they plan to keep you after close. You don't want that. How do I? Spit and sleeve, he said with weary fondness. Old school. He stepped aside so a small man carrying 4 empty picture frames could dart past. The frames rattled like nervous teeth. I wiped the mark hard with the cuff of my high school hoodie. Blue blurred and then came off, greasy and real. The wood felt grateful under my wrist. Somewhere back in the light, the janitor's head tipped, scenting, but kept rolling. Max! Mom's voice floated up the stairs, flannel and sleep. You okay up there? Just packing, I called, normal mouth, careful vowels. The wayfinder lifted a palm. Not a word more. He leaned into the door the way people do to say something just to you. If the air smells like copier and the buzz changes to a click, step back from the threshold. That's a freight runner. They don't see side doors. He slid something thin across my rug with his shoe. A business card, off-brand and damp. On it, an arrow and 3 knocks drawn in pen. If it closes on you, he said, knock like that. 211. Door will remember which side of itself you were born on. I looked at the card and thought of 4th grade me writing rules to future me about B's and vents and second lines. Maybe the door had always known both sides of itself. Maybe I had too. The hum climbed half a step toward headache and then eased like a cough deciding not to happen. A cluster of people in high-vis vests hustled by, carrying a rolled-up drop ceiling like a patient. One of them glanced into my room and smiled sadly at the posters. Good anchor, he said, as if complimenting a casserole. How long? I asked. How long will they use this? Until your room stops remembering, the wayfinder said. Move the bed. Sleep elsewhere. Paint the walls wrong. Make new grooves in your life. Or don't, and we'll keep tapping it 2 most nights until Delta reopens. The lamp on my desk blinked off and on. The hum went silent for a single slice of time that made my stomach drop, then returned louder, layered, as if another set of lights had joined it. Which of you is 9? A voice asked from a place that wasn't a mouth. The wayfinder's hand shot out, lightly pressing my shoulder back. Don't let it pick, he said. His breath smelled like coffee gone brave. Talk over it. Drown yourself in your own noise. I did the dumbest old thing I could think of. I reached into the closet and yanked the chain on the dead CRT. Static climbed out of its dusty throat like a blizzard of insects. The high tone braided with the buzz until the air between my teeth hissed. The voice lost interest the way a cat loses interest in a toy that turns out to be a shoe. Smart, the wayfinder said, surprised into respect. A runner kneeled and stapled another laminated tag low. Tomorrow 1:33 to 2:11. He patted the baseboard like a dog. We'll be fast, he told it. Then, right as my lungs relearned how to be in a body, soft footsteps came almost soundless up the yellow hall. A person the shape of my father stopped at the door. He wore Dad's old Terry House shoes, the ones with the flattened heel. He didn't look up. He said something on my rug without crossing the line. A paper map folded from the homework I did at this very desk, the kind with my dinosaur stickers marching along the edge. His voice, which was not my father's, said in a tone that always meant lights out. You left the nightlight on. The map said emergency evacuation in my 3rd grade caps. An arrow started at my bed and pointed not out of the house, but inward, deep into the endless yellow. Under the fold, I could see the tail of my name, cut by the crease, disappearing toward a place I didn't want to learn. Something inside the vent knocked once, then twice, and then from somewhere under my bed, a 3rd, patient tap answered back. I didn't move. The 3rd knock under my bed was too polite, spaced just far enough from the 2 in the vent to feel like a signature. The car by my foot showed, but the wayfinder's voice had been precise. 211. This was 121. A mirrored version. A lure trying to learn our rules and get them wrong by a hair. Close it, the wayfinder said, already moving. The stream of bodies had thinned to a trickle. You could hear the hum of the lights catch its breath between steps. We're clear. I reached for the door and felt the air change like a dog changing rooms. The hum brightened to a sterile buzz. Copier ink edged my tongue. Click. The wayfinder yanked my wrist so hard the banker's box toppled. A compact blur tore down the yellow at eye level. Lights off, all angle and purpose, built only to intersect. It punched the threshold where my arm had been and left a smell like hot plastic and lemon. The door jittered. Freight runner, he said, voice flat with relief. You don't hear them until you do. Keep that thing on. He nodded at the CRT, which hissed dutifully like a faithful pet with a broken throat. The stream resumed, hurried now, a team that had decided to be done. A woman with tape on every finger pressed an orange cone to my baseboard where the blue crayon had been. It unfolded into a paper flower. The janitor didn't come back for now. 201, the wayfinder said. We'll clear by 03. He caught me noticing the stapled tag for tomorrow and shrugged, apologizing for weather. I told you the truth about time. It loops with teeth. The thing in my father's slippers hadn't moved. It waited with its hands behind its back the way he used to when he tried not to fidget during church. The map on my rug glowed faintly, the dinosaur stickers lit from inside, as if remembering stars. You left the night light on. It repeated, same cadence, same small disapproval that used to make me tuck sheets tighter. The wayfinder did not look at it. Don't address facsimiles, he said quietly. They have your punctuation, but not your grammar. I bent, picked up the card he'd given me, and pressed it to the map so the drawn arrow kissed the printed one. The paper warmed like a pulse. The not father turned his head a fraction, curious for the first time. 211. I said, but only in my throat, no breath under it. I knocked it on the floor instead. 2, then 1, my knuckle finding the old scuff spot where I used to sit to tie my shoes. The door remembered. It drew itself inward an inch like a person thinking of closing their eyes. The wayfinder checked his watch and tapped the laminated bypass sign, like it had a pulse he could count. They're almost through, he said. You're holding up. Don't let them blue you again. What happens if they keep me? I asked, because the question had been knocking since the blue half moon appeared. Do I end up like... I nodded at the not father, who had found a way to look patient without moving. Anchors rot slow, he said. You'd still be you just used. Your room would start wearing you like a name tag. The house would try to repeat you until it cracked a tooth on the effort. A child ran past, hair in a crown braid. Her lunchbox had my dinosaur stickers twins. She didn't look, but her free hand teetered like a curb walker. If she dropped it, I knew it would land in my closet, and I'd pick it up, and the world's hinge would squeal. Mom called up again, closer now. Max, you talking to someone? Her slippers scuffed the hall floor outside my door in a normal world, like punctuation marks trying to keep up. Just the TV. I lied, and I was grateful for the CRT's steady insectum to cover my voice. The wayfinder lifted 2 fingers in thanks, and then pointed those same fingers at the not father. It nodded back, as if it knew sign language no one had taught it. The lights dipped once, then twice, the way a crowd shifts before a song ends. The flow of people ceased. The hum relaxed down a note. Far down the yellow, the janitor stopped, put its hands flat against the wall, and listened with its whole body. I felt the pressure change, as if the house were swallowing. That's close, the wayfinder said. He stepped back into the hall that wasn't, and put his palm against the edge of my door without crossing it. You did good. Next time, tape your name before they start. Move your bed. Give the room new grooves to learn. If you keep it perfect, it'll keep you perfectly. What about tomorrow? I asked because the stapled tag made the word feel heavy. 1:33 to 2:11. I won't be assigned, he said. Delta'll reopen or it won't. Another team will run it through you, or they'll find a weaker anchor. But you, he paused, and for the first time his tired face showed something like envy. You wrote yourself a rule when you were small and brave. Find a rest. Kids don't write rules without a reason. The hum dropped to a sigh and then to ordinary silence. The fluorescents in the far hall went out like someone pinched two fingers and snuffed them. My closet showed my closet again. Bad paint, wire hangers, the scuff from my skateboard I swore wasn't mine. On the rug, the paper map had turned into one of my old worksheets, blank spaces where answers should go. Under the corner, something blue and waxy dotted the wood. A half moon, careful and small. Inside the circle, 3 letters pressed with a crayon stub I recognized.